Welcome, Vintage Hollywood Archive. Myrna Loy is an interesting character in the world of Hollywood, an actress who didn't court scandal. She was a trained dancer and one of the few stars who made a successful transition from silent movies to the sound era. She was so popular that in 1936 she was named Queen of the Movies and Clark Gable the King in a nationwide poll of moviegoers. Why was Myrna Loy the only potential rival to Greta Garbo? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Vintage Hollywood Archive channel. Myrna Loy, her world beyond Hollywood. The only good girl in Hollywood. From the beginning, Myrna Loy's screen image conjured mystery, a sense of something withheld. Who is she? Was a question posed in the first fan magazine article published about her in 1925. She was such a private person. Anything truly intimate or revealing, she did not want the world to know. The actress Myrna Loy was best known for her enchanting chemistry with William Powell in The Thin Man movies of the 30s and 40s. Though her life was remarkable, both from her years in early Hollywood and her personal history of political activism, Loy played the perfect wife on screen, but her personal life was less sunny. 4 marriages, 4 divorces, and to her great sadness, no children. Myrna Loy blazed a trail for Hollywood actresses. She evolved from the silent films of the 1920s, where she was frequently cast as a mysterious exotic, to the 30s, in which she became the witty, all-American fantasy wife. Whether silent vamp or libeled lady, Myrna Loy had a gift for the insouciant gesture. During the many years Myrna Loy reigned as one of America's leading movie stars, millions of fans idolized her as the perfect wife, a paragon of charm, sophistication, and intelligence, whose sly sense of humor never deserted her, no matter how outrageous the circumstances or her husband's behavior. Despite the stardom, Loy's life extended well beyond Hollywood. She also carved out a role as a highly respected spokesperson for international social issues, and she worked tirelessly for the United Nations, liberal political candidates, and civil rights legislation. She was the first Hollywood celebrity to work for the U.S. National Commission for UNESCO. Originally typecast in exotic roles, often as a vamp or a woman of Asian descent, her career prospects improved following her portrayal of Nora Charles in The Thin Man. Her successful pairing with William Powell resulted in 14 films together, including several subsequent Thin Man films. Loy, born Myrna Williams in Helena, Montana in 1905, was a breath of fresh air presence on screen. Her face, with its delicate, almost feline features, was always exquisite. Her touch with comedy, always perfectly light and utterly winning. Her mother was Adele May, who studied music at the American Conservatory of Music in Chicago. Her father was David Williams, a rancher. He was also a banker and real estate developer, and the youngest man to be elected to the Montana State Legislature. She was raised in Radersburg. Her first name came from a train station whose name her father liked. During the winter of 1912, Loy's mother nearly died from pneumonia, and her father sent his wife and daughter to La Jolla, California. Loy's mother saw great potential in Southern California, and during one of his visits, she encouraged her husband to purchase real estate there. Among the properties he bought was land later sold at a considerable profit to Charlie Chaplin, so the filmmaker could construct his studio there. Although Loy's mother tried to convince her husband to move to California permanently, he preferred ranch life, and the three eventually returned to Montana. City life did nothing to erase young Myrna Williams' reputation as a scrappy, independent-minded roughneck with no time for sentimentality, not even toward a love-struck neighborhood boy named Gary Cooper, who had developed a crush on her. Her parents were not the doting kind. Never once in the first few years of my life did anyone hug me or pat my head and say, "What a lovely little girl," she once recalled with some satisfaction. At least I escaped that. The seed of Loy's lifelong political liberalism may have been planted when Helena's first African-American family moved into the Williams neighborhood. Unlike most of her neighbors, Della was quick to accept the newcomers. "My mother made no distinction at all," Loy remembered. "She welcomed them and encouraged us to play with their children." Her parents were ardent Democrats and supporters of Woodrow Wilson's pacifist policies, campaigning for Wilson's League of Nations after World War I. "When I was growing up," she told an interviewer, "it was all Democrats. We wouldn't let a Republican in the back door." Soon after, Loy's mother needed a hysterectomy and insisted Los Angeles was a safer place to have it, so she, Loy, and Loy's brother David moved to Ocean Park, where Loy began to take dancing lessons. They continued after she returned to Montana, and at the age of 12, Myrna Williams made her stage debut, performing a dance she choreographed based on The Blue Bird from the Rose Dream operetta at Helena's Marlowe Theater. Following her father's death, Loy and her family fulfilled her mother's dream by moving to Culver City. She attended the exclusive Westlake School for Girls in Holmby Hills and continued to study dance in downtown Los Angeles. When her teachers objected to her participating in theatrical arts, her mother enrolled her in Venice High School, and at 15, she began appearing in local stage productions. Loy left high school in her senior year to appear at the theater in one of its famous prologue dances, elaborate stage numbers with a theme matching that of the silent film to follow. In Myrna's case, the film was Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, requiring a farm girl from rural Montana to hoof it on the Grauman stage as an Egyptian courtesan. Nonetheless, Loy's auburn hair and slightly oblique green eyes seemed the perfect complement to the costume and attracted the attention of a photographer hired for publicity shots, who showed his work to friends Rudolph Valentino and Valentino's wife and manager Natasha Rambova. Valentino, an Italian immigrant who had become a silent film idol by playing seductive sheiks and desert princes in sand-strewn romantic potboilers, thought that Loy might be usable in his next film and told Rambova to arrange a screen test. Myrna's first experience in front of a camera was, by her own admission, a disaster, and Valentino quickly lost interest in her. Rambova, however, was convinced Myrna had a future in pictures and cast her in a film she was herself directing. She helped facilitate film auditions for her, and she began obtaining small roles in the late 1920s, mainly portraying vamps. Loy's striking looks caught the eye of Valentino through the silent and early sound era to her films of the 30s, when Loy became a top box office draw, and to her robust post-World War II career. By now, friends were suggesting that her chances might be better if she changed her name, there being too many actors called Williams in the business already. A writer friend, much taken with the nonsensical sound poems of Gertrude Stein, came up with Loy as a suitable complement to her first name. The headshots Myrna sent to Warner Bros. Were signed with the new name, which seemed to work its magic when the studio offered Myrna Loy a contract in 1925 at $75 a week. Loy's fear of limiting labels was amply justified for the next 6 years. She was condemned to a dreary series of B pictures in which she was typecast as the sensuous, mysterious, and often treacherous foreign femme fatale of vague Asian extraction, with such names as Yasmini, Newbie, and Follow C. Hollywood wasn't taking full advantage of Myrna Loy, whom he thought to be the only potential rival to Greta Garbo. Myrna Loy has intelligence, and it is high time somebody gave her a decent part. Give the girl a chance. MGM bosses were willing to move Loy onto the studio's A-list. She appeared in the first of a number of films with Clark Gable, 1933's Night Flight, and the following year with Gable and William Powell in Manhattan Melodrama, the film that had such disastrous consequences for John Dillinger, and the only film in which she appears with her two most popular leading men at the same time. By the mid-1930s, Loy was so popular with the movie-going public that she had become one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood, and in a December 1937 poll in the United States and Canada, Loy and Clark Gable were voted by 20 million moviegoers as the King and Queen of Hollywood. Loy, who confided many years later that she considered Gable a terrible actor, found working with him challenging. Clark was always trying to put me on the spot, she later said of their 7 films together. There was a constant one-upmanship. I had to play tough, independent women opposite him. But it was a different story with William Powell. He was so naturally witty and outrageous that I stayed somewhat detached, always a little incredulous, she said. We felt that particular magic between us. Woody Van Dyke, the film's director, noticed something too. It was his next film that would make Myrna Loy a star. A few years earlier, MGM had bought the rights to one of novelist Dashiell Hammett's mystery novels, The Thin Man. Thalberg assigned Van Dyke to what he expected to be a typical and inexpensive B picture. Called One-Shot Woody, Van Dyke was known for his rapid and usually under-budget shooting style. But it was precisely his efficient directing style and the film's short, 12-day shooting schedule that gave the final product the breezy, informal, and amusing tone that would also mark 6 more such films over the next 13 years. Despite the fact that Loy had over 70 films to her credit by 1934, it was the part of Nora that made her career. Her role in The Thin Man helped elevate her reputation as a versatile actress, and she reprised the role of Nora Charles 5 more times. It put me right up there with the public in the studio, and it inspired the press, she recalled many years later. They called me the perfect wives, but at least this wife thing came closer to my own personality. The fame Loy achieved came with a price. Always careful to keep her private and professional lives separate, Myrna was dismayed at the publicity that surrounded her marriage to Arthur Hornblow Jr. in 1936. Loy had met Hornblow some years earlier on the MGM lot, where he was an assistant producer, and their affair during her pre-Nora days had drawn little attention, even though Hornblow was still a married man. The couple's plan to marry quietly in Mexico when Hornblow's divorce from his first wife became final was disrupted by a trail of photographers and reporters, leading Loy to complain, "I can't see what the marriage has to do with my work. All I can say is, if you're successful at something, God help you." The public scrutiny only increased with her performance in one of the best-loved of the screwball comedies of the 1930s, Libeled Lady, in which she again appeared with Powell and with Jean Harlow. By the end of 1936, Loy was among MGM's highest-paid stars, earning as much as any of the studio's male stars, including Clark Gable, after waging a successful equal pay for equal work fight with Louis Mayer himself. By the outbreak of World War II, Loy had amply justified her title of Queen of the Movies in films such as I Love You Again, Third Finger, Left Hand, and in 3 Thin Man sequels. During World War II, she worked with the American Red Cross and later served as a representative to UNESCO. Loy appeared on screen less frequently after the war, dividing her time between acting and political causes. She was an officer and advisor of the National Committee Against Discrimination in Housing and was a member of the Committee for the First Amendment, a group of prominent Hollywood actors who protested the actions of the House Committee on Un-American Activities. Nevertheless, she still delivered excellent performances in such well-received films. She made friendships with luminaries such as Cary Grant, Clark Gable, and Joan Crawford, and her collaborations with the likes of John Barrymore, David O. Selznick, Sam Goldwyn, and William Wyler, among many others. Many believe that Myrna Loy is the best American actress never to have been nominated for an Academy Award. Despite having played leads and supporting roles in more than 100 movies, she appeared in more than 36 films in the 1920s alone, most of them silent movies. It is an odd tribute to Myrna Loy's film career that one of America's most notorious gangsters died because of her. John Dillinger had eluded federal agents for months, but one summer afternoon in 1934, he was unable to resist the temptation to see his favorite movie star in her new film playing at Chicago's Biograph. Dillinger was gunned down by waiting G-men as he left the theater. He shared his enthusiasm for Myrna Loy with a more exalted fan, Franklin Roosevelt, who always asked for private screenings of her films at the White House and made sure to take one of them with him overseas for comfort after a hard day of international diplomacy. In between these two extremes were millions of Americans who elected Myrna Loy Queen of the Movies in a 1936 Ed Sullivan newspaper poll and flocked to see her in pictures with her king, Clark Gable. The press named her the perfect wife for her portrayal of Nora Charles, the wisecracking mate of William Powell's Nick Charles, in a widely successful series of Thin Man films during the 1930s and 1940s. It all made Loy, frankly, uncomfortable. "Labels limit you because they limit your possibilities," she once wrote. There was no formal announcement of her retirement from films. Loy merely chose to spend more time in her modest one-bedroom apartment on New York's Upper East Side. In 1991, Loy was given a Lifetime Achievement Award at that year's Oscar ceremonies. It was her last public appearance. On December 14, 1993, Myrna Loy died quietly at home. She was 88 years old. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here.